here to talk about how marriages differ from one to the next, how relationships are different from one another. There's no single relationship that is the same. There is no single marriage that is the same as everybody else. Every marriage is different. Every relationship is different and unique. Let me tell you something here. What is good for me might not be good for my brother, for my sister, for my neighbor, for my colleagues, for my co-workers. What works in my family may not work in your family. And I mean that what works in my family may not work in your family. Especially, let's say, like, what works in Kenya may not work in Uganda. What works in Uganda may not work in US. So every relationship is unique in its own way. It is you and your partner to find what works best for you. Stop comparing relationships. Stop comparing marriages. We are all created differently. There is that uniqueness in us that makes us who we are. We are not the same. What you tolerate, I might not tolerate it in my relationship or in my marriage. You know, whatever you take in your relationship, in your marriage, I might not take it in my relationship or in my family. So it is you as a partner to find out what works best for the two of you. But stop copying others. Life is not dependent on how others live. Imagine one thing that is killing marriages, relationships out there, is copying other couples' lifestyle. Then you want to bring it and then paste it in your relationship or in your marriage. It will not work. Life is not all about copy and paste. Remember, we all have different exam papers when it comes to marriage and the relationships. What suits you? What works for you and your partner? What works in your family? You know, every relationship and marriages, actually, they differ. Marriages differ and the relationships differ. And I'm going to explain further. There are those who wash their husband's clothes. They wash their husband's clothes, they iron it. They polish their husband's shoes. There are those who choose what their husband wears every day, and it works. And there are those who don't care what their partner wears, who washes their partner's clothes, and surprising enough, that works for them. There are those who cook for their husbands breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There are those men who don't even know how the kitchen looks like. There are those men who do not step in a kitchen. It's a taboo to them. And there are those who cook for their wives. There are those who do dishes for their wives. There are those who even go to an extent of cooking and serving their wives. And guess what? It works. There are those who are not bothered. They're in a kitchen cutting, vegetables. Yani kuna wale wanaume wanakata mboga kwa kitchen, while his wife is seated pretty comfortable at the sitting room, watching TV and browsing. And imagine it works for them. And there are those who cannot tolerate that. There are those who can't even tolerate their wives seated while they are cooking in a kitchen. There are those who fetch water in their family. And there are those who don't even do nothing. There are those men who are treated like kings in their homes, in their relationships. And they imagine it works. And there are those that who are errand boys to their wives, and it works. There are those who open car doors to their wives, and they imagine it works. And there are those who don't even know how to open a car door to their wives. And that marriage works. All I'm trying to tell you is simple. Find what works for you and your spouse. Stop copying others. So there are some who really try to do things for their partners. And guess what? They don't even mean it. They are pretending. Some people pretend to do things which is not them, and you may copy and think it will work if you paste it in your relationship. Brothers and sisters, we are unique and different from one another. If you love your partner, you need to find your love language. Which love language does your partner understand best? There are those who buy gifts for their spouses. And there are those who don't even buy a sweet, a roll pop to their partners, and it works. There are those who sleep until late hours. So when your partner wakes up and goes to work very early in the morning, it is their responsibility to know what to eat before they go to work. And it works. And there are those who wake up very early to prepare their partners when they're going to work, and it works. I mean, find what works best in your relationship. Stop copying and paste. It may not work. There was a guy who we went to a seminar with. Then the speaker of the day told us something that a friend of mine copied and wanted to paste it at home, and it didn't work. What the speaker said was this: his best days were spent in the arms of a woman who was not his wife or his girlfriend. Then the speaker continued saying that that woman was his mother. So my friend left the seminar, went home, and he found his wife cooking in the kitchen. So he went, kissed the wife, and told the wife, you know what, my love, my baby, the best days of my life were spent in the arms of a woman who was not my wife. Who is not my wife? Without the second thought, the wife got upset. She could not give a guy time to finish and say who the woman was. The guy suffered some casualties. So stop copying and paste. You find, imagine, marriage and relationships, it is work. It's construction in process, which never ends. You need to work on your marriage on a daily basis. And you also need to find what works for you and you with your spouse. Stop copying others. Some people are hypocrites. Some people are pretenders. And again, what I want to get rid of from your mind is what works in my marriage may not work in your relationship. So stop copying. Find what works best for you. There are people who are in long distance relationships and it works. And there are those, if you dare, it will not work. There are some people or couples who contribute 50-50 in their relationships. If you pay rent, I pay school fees. If I pay gas, you pay electricity. If I pay water, you buy food. And it works. And there are those who the man is the sole provider. And it works. Imagine, and it works. There are those who contribute 50-50 in their relationships. And it works. There are some who sleep in the same room and it works. And there are those who cannot stand one another sleeping in the same room. And all those are called relationships and marriages, and it works for them. So you find what is best for you and your partner and what it works. I'm not saying that you pretend. Totally find what works for you. There are some women who are full-time housewives and it works. And there are those who cannot stand being a housewife. And still it works. It works. There are those who are drunkards in their relationships and they match, it works. And also there are those that are not drunkards and it works. So there is no single way that I can tell you that this is the right way to do a relationship or to do a marriage or to raise a family. There are those who worship their husbands and it works. There are those who are so submissive to their husbands, which most women consider being slavery, and it works. And there are those who don't submit to their husbands, and it all works. Believe me, my brother, my sister, marriage or relationships actually differ. There's no single line that I can tell you, if you toe this line, your marriage will work. It is you to understand and know your partner. And above all, what you need is wisdom that surpasses everything in this world. If you love your partner, you need to understand your partner better. There are those who wash or who bathe their wives. There are those who treat their wives as baby girls. And there are those who cannot stand that, and it works. There are those, when they go to the supermarkets, they push the cart, while the wife is walking like the queen, like the baby girl, and it works. And there are some men I have seen when they're in a supermarket, it's the woman who pushes the cart and picks what she wants. And when we get to the car, the same woman brought everything to the car, while the man is seated at the driver's side or the driver's seat, waiting to drive the wife home after bringing everything into the car. Find what works for you. There are those who prefer to hold their hands in public, in supermarkets, wherever you go, in functions, and it works for them. And there are those who do not like, displaying affection in public, and it works for them. So it is you to decide and understand your partner. The key word here is understanding your personal person, and it has to be intentional. If you love your person, it has to be intentional. Kindly learn and understand There are simple principles of marriage or being in a relationship. Learn your partner. Marriage is hard work. Just like you wake up every morning, you go to work. Marriage is work. You have to fold your sleeves, make your hands dirty if you want to make your relationship work. There's no relationship that is alike. I mean, even if you marry sisters, blood sisters, they all behave different. If you marry the same brothers from the same father, same mother, they are different. That's why when you see, I went somewhere recently, and another guy was asking me if I have a brother who behaves like me. And I said, I have brothers, but I don't think there's anyone who behaves like me. We might look alike, but the characters are different. What they tolerate is different from what I can take. So you cannot assume just because you married from a good family, all of them are what? Good people. So find what works for you best. Every relationship works, and it will only work if everybody understands that no two marriages are the same. Marriage works best when you know that there are no two marriages that are the same. Even when the situations are the same, the individuals are not even the same. We come online daily and read lots of articles about what people do in their marriages. Wash is calling the one who washes a slave. The one who washes is calling the one who doesn't wash, bad marriage, wife. I mean, you need to find what works best for you and your partner. Stop copying others and find what works for you, and your marriage will thrive. All I'm trying to say is simple. We all wish and want to have a successful relationship or a successful marriage. There are people who take their girlfriends before or fiancés to college. They educated them. And after college, they get married and it works. And there are those, when you send your girlfriend or fiancé to college or your wife, they find someone better there and they move on. So you find what works for you. And above all, you need wisdom from above to help you cope up. One of the major destruction to 21st century marriages and relationships is social media. Counselors, articles, posts, and testimonies. What works for you? Ni nini inafanya kwako? What really works for you? How sure are you that the person you are copying is happy in a relationship? How sure are you that the person you are copying is happy? You are not mad. You are not a slave. You are not rude for seeking happiness. Peace in marriage can only be gotten if you understand that even if your name is Amaka, married to Emeka, you are not the same as your husband, also pairs Emeka.